My name's Corey Dinopoulos. I'm a South Boston resident, probably the furthest point in town from here. But listen, I was inspired in January from Obama's message of grabbing a clipboard and running for office if you didn't like what you saw going on in your city. I do think our city's going in a good direction, but I felt like there were some shortcomings in South Boston in my district, where I'd go to community meetings to hear about what's going on, and I'd always hear, is Lenningham here? Is someone from the staff here? No, all right. I was there. I was at all those meetings. So I started thinking, you know what, I could do a much better job than this guy can. So, I took Obama's inspiration and I said, I'm going to grab a clipboard and I'm going to run for office. It's a lot of work. I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, born and raised in Lowell, moved to Boston from Drake, Mass, 2004 to attend Mass College of Art and Design. It's the only public art school in the whole country, actually. And public art and public education made me passionate and fearless. And it actually inspired me to run for office and be more civically engaged in the city of Boston. In that time at Mass Art, I became more involved in politics. I took my whole design class to a 12 Patrick rally at Boston Common. And at the time, my friends all thought it was crazy. They were like, what are you doing getting into politics? You're a graphic designer. But I was really inspired by Deval Patrick. I didn't really know anything about him. And he gave me that opportunity to kind of get more involved in my city. I was knocking on doors, canvassing, doing phone banking, all that stuff. And it really got me fired up. So essentially graduated from Mass Art, and I felt like it was my obligation to be more civically minded. Currently I'm a web developer for John Hancock. People around the corner too. Mike Kelly. I'm a web developer for John Hancock, and I work with people on a daily basis in group settings to identify what problems users are having with applications and apps. So, and not just apps, but John Hancock, everything's done very manually currently. So what I've done as a designer is interviewed users, identified what their problems are, and continuously iterate and improve the stuff that we work on. And I think that type of iterative design and design thinking can be applied to the way we work in the city itself. So that's why I think I can provide a different perspective to City Council. As someone who's worked in big business, small business, startups, nonprofits, and I think I have that ability to work with other people. Having kind of canvassed the neighborhoods in the past couple of months, I've identified that there are three major issues that people care about. Transportation is my biggest one. I'm not typically late, but I'm still working my full-time gig, so it's a little hard to get around the city. Now, it's not just driving, it's public transit, and I think that City Council could have a much stronger voice in improving our transit problems. I think a lot of times we pass the buck to the state and say, you know what, this is a state issue, the state's gonna deal with this. But I really think that as a future councilor who would be taking the T every day on the bus, I wait in lines, 30 people deep to get on the bus in the morning from South Boston into downtown, and we shouldn't be doing that. We need someone who's speaking on behalf of residents to get around the city easier. We've seen pedestrian deaths and also cyclist deaths this year on Tremont Street in the Back Bay and District 2. And you know what? We need to do something about that. We need to be creating safer streets and coming up with multimodal solutions to help fix those transit problems. The second issue I've been hearing about is housing. The cost of housing is too high. We're building a lot of luxury housing. We're building a lot of, maybe not as much low-income housing, but we're not building as affordable workforce housing for teachers, people who make our city function on a daily basis. The third thing that I'm hearing about are our schools. Families can't grow their families, or couples can't grow their families, and they end up moving out of Boston because they can't afford to pay for a nice home or a nice school. They get one or the other. Some of them can't afford either. We need to spend more money on schools, and we need to fund our schools better than we have today. One of the ways that we could be doing that is through this pilot program that was put in place by Mayor Menino where we have larger nonprofit institutions such as Northeastern who aren't apparently paying their fair share. Last year, for instance, they paid 20% of what they actually owe in taxes. They're not required to pay their taxes, but if they paid a little bit more, maybe we would have more money for our public schools. And that would be something that I would be holding those nonprofit institutions accountable for. I didn't mention both my parents and public school teachers. My mom has taught for 26 years, my dad for 47. They're both still teaching. They refuse to retire because they love it so much. And I'm a product of that. I really believe that public education is what we need to work on as a city, so families can stay here and bring their kids up here. Much like the school around the corner that's doing very well, I wish we could model the rest of the city's public schools after what we're doing in the north end. I mean, essentially that's it. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I apologize for being late, and I love your vote, and I'm here to take some questions.
Anyone have any questions from the audience? I have one question for Tots about transportation, of course, especially in the Seaport area, even some of us in the district are getting there. Obviously, there's great restaurants down there now. It's an entertainment, and it's being developed as an entertainment area. And I know people live there because we deal with that as well as on that. But how can you specifically address that? You know it's a problem, but what are solutions?
I mean, they're doing all sorts of different trials and pilot programs across the city, and Everett's a good example of what they're doing with bus rapid transit. So during rush hour, maybe reducing the amount of bus stops that the stops may take. You know, from City Point, which is the furthest point in South Boston, to Broadway Station, there's 18 stops. Why does the bus need to stop 18 times during rush hour when the bus is full of like 100 people? Maybe we reduce that during rush hour to speed those buses along. Signal prioritization, and also, bus-only lanes. Maybe trialing that out during rush hour as well. I think our city needs to be more cycle-friendly, so maybe we can get more people out of their cars. I know it's not great for everyone. Some of us have families and we've got to drive our kids to soccer practice. Not everyone can shed their car, but if we give incentive to allow younger people to want to bike to work and make it safer to bike to work, maybe we can ease some of that congestion. So those are some of my solutions for transportation.
Anyone else have a question? Great, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.